going on, everybody? All right, I'll get right to it. My friends in Albany, things again that I've talked about over the years about what's going on. If you remember a couple of years ago, I went right down the street here to sit in on two different hearings. One was I think it was a regular meeting of the New York State Gaming, New York State Department of Ag, New York Sire Stakes, blah, 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 the trustees, the people that control your breeding and sire stakes, county fairs, Excelsior A, New York Sire Stakes in New York State. The breeding industry that you know is a shambles, for lack of better terms, in the state of New York. However, and then I also went to the initial hearing of where they were lobbying for the ship seamen in New York State, looking for more easier ways to prop up a dying breeding industry. And stakes, New York Sire Stakes, that you see at the time were racing for what, $225,000 in their finals. Anyway, I am going to read to you most of what's going on, what was said in this email from A1 Stephen Jones to the body of breeders, including the head of New York State Department, New York State Ag and Horse Development Fund. I always get it wrong. Mr. Scunziano, all the breeders, anyone that has anything to gain by breeding standardbreds in New York State, and the top guys that make the most money in the sire stakes and rewards at the end of the year, breeding standardbreds and racing standardbreds in New York Sire Stakes in New York State. Rarely will you hear anything about the little guy who gets screwed again. That in this email, you're going to see how angry the individual that sent this email out, that I wish I could show you the amount of caps and bold letters basically screaming that he didn't get his way this time when it came to the way that the bill was worded when it comes to the ship seamen and which horses are actually eligible to the lower classes of the New York Sire Stakes as opposed to the New York Sire Stakes, meaning Excelsior and county fairs. There was an amendment made that I guess they were unaware of that upset Mr. Jones ridiculously. And I mean, all I can do is laugh. And this is everything that I said, that they're only worried about themselves. And that if you're a little guy in New York State and you want to race cheaper horses, whatever it is, they are going to price you out. And it's clear as day in here. Listen to how this starts. Gentlemen, there were 1,027 mares bred in New York State in 2024. All the stallions that bred 20 or more mares are listed below. April 14th, 2025. And he goes on individual farms, Blue Chip, and he goes through the stallions and how many they bred. Cameo Hills Farms, Winback Farms, Leather Stocking. That's pretty much that. There's your New York breeding industry that's supported by the state, by the way, in the state of New York. These four farms bred 966 or the 1,027 mares bred in the state in 2024. 94% of the babies came from those four farms in the state of New York. Gives you an idea just how much it has. If you remember when the New York breeding industry was 30, 40 years ago. You drove, like I said, at that one hearing where I actually spoke, and I said, if you drove any direction here 10 miles, you would pass 10 standardbred breeding farms of different varying sizes. Atlanta LaBelle, Castleton, Pine Hollow Stud, all of these places that are gone now. Right up the hill, there was Castle Hill Farm. There was breeding going on everywhere, and that didn't even include the homebreds that don't exist anymore. All of these farms are opposed to making foals conceived outside the state of New York ineligible to the Excelsior and County Fair program. I also spoke to David Reed, syndicate manager for our newest headline Stallion in 2025, Winner's Bet. David is also opposed. The control that they want is mind-boggling. And I freaking warned all of you. Reasons for opposition, and there are many, but I will list a few. Misrepresentation of the program. He's accusing the people who ratified this bill as misrepresentation of the sire stake program. Our stakes website said, as recently as Thursday, April 10th, 2025, I found out that this, I didn't get this till a couple of days ago. This was actually, this email was sent out on the 14th. Yearling sired by an eligible New York stallion registered with the fund for the full season of service in the year in which the dam was bred are eligible to nominate to the New York Sire Stakes program. Foals of mares bred by semen transported inside or outside of New York State are eligible for nomination. He has a problem with that. And he doesn't have the control of the website. He found out by reading it on the website. Under mares. Mares must be USTA registered to produce a New York bred foal. The mare may be bred in New York State or outside New York State to a stallion registered by the fund. Foals of mares bred by semen transported inside or outside of New York State are eligible for nomination into the New York Sire Stakes program. Think about what he's saying. Under eligible stallions, foals produced by semen transported and inseminated in mares inside or outside of New York State will be eligible for nomination in the New York Sire Stakes program. Now, I remember sitting there and Mr. Jones, when he was asked by Mr. Scunziano, I believe it was, who was presiding over the hearing, says, well, what is it that we're looking, could you explain it, whatever? What can I pass on? That, and Mr. Jones said, we already told them what we want. I'll never forget the way he said it. Now listen to this. This line made my face turn red. So he says again, foals produced by the semen transported and inseminated in mares inside or outside of New York State will be eligible for nomination in the New York Sire Stakes program. I thought that was the idea, to bring in more of the animals, build up the program, because they said the best was when they were saying stallions are leaving. We don't have any stallions, less and less babies in New York State. Yet in the same year, if I remember correctly, King of the North went to Ontario. Who had that horse? Who bred that horse? Blows my mind. Here you are crying that they're leaving, yet you're one of the ones sending them away to another country. Now listen to this line. We are making our colts that are not good enough to compete in the New York Sire Stakes worthless, and thus making them slaughter horses. This guy actually had the nerve to say that. The same guy who you all know about the video I have of two mares losing their lives at a farm not too far from here. Remember? Who owned those mares? I don't even know what to say. Instantly, there are many small trainers that purchase young horses from bigger stables who don't race in the Excelsior and county fairs. This restriction makes 2- and 3-year-old colts valueless. It gives the smaller grassroots trainers and owners fewer horses to purchase and less opportunities to compete in our program. Who created and structured this new New York Sire Stakes? Who was the guy that eliminated the Excelsior B, which was tailor-made for those smaller stables? Remember? Where's Excelsior B? Gone. What did they do with the funds that went to Excelsior B? Kicked it up to the sire stakes. Bullshit. Racetracks are always trying to achieve full fields of entries. This rule reduces the number of entries and participants in the Excelsior series and hurts the racetracks. You are the one who cut the Excelsior series in half and hurts the racetracks they handle. Nobody bets harness racing in New York State. It also reduces the participation in the county fairs because there will be less eligibles. A lot of those are homebreds, and you do nothing to help those smaller county fairs like Trumansburg. You'll send them, you bumped up their money a little bit last year, but what have you done about the facilities and their racetracks that they race on, that they're racing on car batteries, literally, from the demolition derby the night before, over moguls. We have recently simplified our payment schedule to the New York Sire Stakes. This restriction complicates and confuses the people who are supporting us. You're not supporting the people. Example, Blue Chip Farm Yearling is sold, and the new owner makes one payment on March 15th. Oh, let's not go over the way that Blue Chip was doing their nominations, the ones we were talking about 10 years ago. The wait and see nomination process, we won't go into that. Of the two-year-old year, this horse is eligible to all three levels. Concord Farms, who bought a share of that New York Stallion, picks up a box of semen, drives to New Jersey, and breeds their mare. This horse would not be eligible to the Excelsior County Fairs, but our payment schedule makes no difference for this. Question marks. Now, let me ask you this question. Mr. Jones, this is your job. It was your job, I believe you state appointed, as the trustee, who was of the three trustees, you're the one horseman who understands this. How did this slip by you if this is a problem? That's my question. What have you been doing? It's your job to make sure that this doesn't happen. You're supposed to support everybody on every level of harness racing to try to help and support this industry in a state where the industry is dying. You got Vernon Downs that is basically only being kept open by Mr. Corral. You got Tioga that we don't know once we lose Mr. Corral, what's going to happen there. Buffalo and Batavia, you gave Batavia the New York Sire Stake finals this year. Okay, who's going to be there? Buffalo is just a rat hole. Monticello Raceway, the track's falling apart. They have people, they race in front of a closed grandstand. They are losing now all the whatever internal sportsbook revenue there was. Next week, May 3rd, all the kiosks are being closed down inside Resorts World, so that's gone. It's online only. Their offsite parlor is a complete failure. When they opened the offsite parlor, purses went down at Monticello Raceway. The only track that's been doing well financial-wise when it comes to the horsemen themselves is a $60 million that's being welfare injected into Yonkers Raceway and controlled by one man who says whether you can race there or not. And Saratoga is Saratoga. They seem to always just kind of just plod along. But this is under your watch, Mr. Jones. You know, you're too worried about making examples of people rather than just doing your job and representing everybody and supporting the people who actually care about harness racing and the little people who are without them. I know you all like to just take off the top, but once you lose the grassroots, there goes your foundation into an already crumbling industry that you call harness racing. And man, wait till Noah Shackman of the New York Times gets this email. I can't wait, which will be tomorrow. I'm not sending it to him tonight until I can talk to him on the phone. When these yearlings are cataloged for sale, the prospective buyer that we are trying to attract, really, what are you doing to try to attract new buyers into harness racing? It's all the same people buying the same horses from the same people who are the same people that are selling the horses. Full control. That's what you're getting at here. The little guy can't go to these sales and buy, let's say, the more elite animals. How are you going to have the buying power against guys like Weaver Brusemi, you, and the rest of them, the top 5% of the industry. And then the little guy who used to go to the Old Glory sale and buy a baby for $2,500. Instead, and now you've devalued them to where you do have the $1,000 yearlings, where the breeder isn't going to do that anymore because they spent how much are stud fees? $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a baby that they're going to get $1,000 back on your watch. How'd you drop the ball? Kind of sounds like what Mr. Feraldo did the Monticello Raceway when they said, "Oh, we're getting a new offsite casino slot parlor, and we're going to have all this money. We're going to kick all the dirt bags out. We're going to fix the barn area, and we're going to have $20,000 opens." How'd that work out? But I tell you what, who's protected through all this? The big guys. Big guys are untouched here, right, Mr. Jones? So now we'll now have to be made aware that some of the New York bred yearlings are not eligible to the $5,420,000 that we have allotted. We? Who's we, Steve? Who's we? You got a 3-man quorum of trustees. 2 of them are non-horsemen, and you're the other one. And why do you always kick everybody out of the room for the votes? How come the public isn't allowed to hear the votes? I was there. Obviously, a very significant amount of our $15,020,000 program. That's the money that carries your New York Sire Stakes, people. The changes we implemented, opening the borders, you screamed and cried to open the borders, right, Steve? Increase the mayor's bred 6 to 1027, which is nothing compared to what it used to be. Not even, Jesus Christmas. In 1 year, a 23% increase in capital bold letters. Winner's Bet arriving in 2025 will only increase that percentage in 2025. This book is full and closed at 140. Our New York State Residency Breeders' Awards are significant that you increased for yourself, right, Steve? That is how we reward those boarded within our state. Who's we again? You're the one that makes these Breeders' Awards and gave yourselves a raise behind closed doors. After our meeting Thursday, and as people are becoming aware of this decision, 2 things have happened. I've received several calls from the people who want to cancel their bookings to New York Stallions in 2025 on your watch. Your job. You allowed it to happen. The language on our this is the best part, on our New York Sire Stake website. So you didn't know, as a trustee of the program, what these changes and amendments were until they were posted on your website? Are you serious? Has changed between April 10th, 2025 and April 14th of 25 to reflect the decision that mares bred outside the state are not eligible to the Excelsior and County Fair programs. I said at that initial hearing to Mike Kimmelman, I said, Mike, this isn't going to fly. What they're asking for is to literally, like you say here, blow open the borders, ask this state of New York for more, and to be able to take in from the outside and also profit off them. Sounds great. But that's because your program is a failure. And it sounds to me as though somebody threw a wheel under you. So to reflect the decision that mares bred outside the state are not eligible to the Excelsior and County Fair program. Now in capital letters, if we were going to implement this ill-conceived rule change, where were you on this then? It's your job to know everything that's happening. You didn't know what was going on in Albany. This needed to be on our website to the start of the 2024 breeding season, not changed in the last 3 days. How were you not aware, Steve? In conclusion, we are hurting the program, hurting people, and discouraging people from participating in your already failed program. And this was to help prop it up, and you dropped the ball. And encouraging them to do business in other states. You asked for this, Steve. I was sitting there. We already told them what we want. Remember, Steve? And encouraging them to do business in other states that do not have this restriction. That's on you. How'd you miss it? None, capital letters, bold, of our bordering neighbors in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Ontario have this restriction. You mean some of the places that you've sent, like King of the North to, Ontario? This is a crisis that needs to be addressed. It affects the mares being bred right now. Not addressing this immediately, that means capital letters, big font increase, capital letters, will only create legal issues for all farms that sold breedings. Your job to keep the clarification to the horsemen and the breeders and the investors who you just turned off again. But is it going to hurt you, is my question, and some of the other people around here. I've given you the thoughts of the people that booked 94% of the mares bred in New York in 2024, and their thoughts are all the same. This must not happen. Well, it's already happened, Steve. These same people are less affected than customers who board mares outside the state. Yet, every one of them oppose this. All customers and supporters of our program that own a mare boarded outside the state are certainly opposed to this. Again, the clarity is supposed to come from you. If you want to discuss this further and want input from other mare owners or trainers, I will start compiling their thoughts, which will be the same. Trainers will have less horses to choose from, eligible to less racing opportunities. Owners will have less horses to choose from that can compete in all three levels. You missed it. Those horses eligible to all three levels will be more expensive. Really? What did I just say before about it's only going to help the people with the money? And the colts only eligible to the New York Sire Stake top level become slaughter horses when it's just you use that again? Wait a minute, I got to read this again. The colts only eligible to the New York Sire Stake top level become slaughter horses when it is determined their horses can't compete at the highest or the A level. I guess that says Excelsior A. So what you're saying is you're breeding horses that if they're not good enough, and even though you cut the Excelsior series in half already, that if they're not able to race in the lower New York Sire Stakes, they have zero value. And you admit that you allowed this problem to happen. Those are the facts. Let me know how you would like me to proceed, or who you want to hear from next, and I will gather that information. Steve Jones. This even gets one of these. I thought that what Joe Feraldo did to the horsemen of Monticello Raceway was the biggest monkey banging a football ever. This, by far, I don't think this can be topped. I thought we were hearing about all this crap with the top guys in the USTA, fighting guys, Diamond Creek, Howard Taylor, the other Russell Williams, Hanover Shoe Farm, and the big, it's like the gods are all battling each other. This is by far, what would this be? This is the turn in the story that nobody expected. I've been sitting on this now long enough, and I said, I'm not anymore. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this off to the gentleman who wrote the story in the New York Times, last month, whatever it was, the New York Sunday Times. And I'm going to say, oh, look what's happening. Why don't you give Joe Feraldo a call first? And then why don't you give Mr. Jones a call from one of the trustees in New York Sire Stakes and ask them what's happening now with what they, right down here, I was there, lobbied and cried for, and you got it, and now you're crying about it. I don't know whether to laugh, cry laughing, fall off this stool laughing. I mean, holy shit. And the state entrusts you with this money, and now you're blaming the state for your failure. Well done.